All right, folks, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Today's date is September 5th, Thursday, 2024. What does that mean? Well, September 5th on a Thursday is going to be the first game of the year. So finally, the NFL season is underway. Well, we haven't quite seen it yet, but depending on when you're watching this, may have already started. Before we dive into this, because I am going to give my projections or predictions, whatever you want to call them at this point, I'm going to give my predictions for the entire season, okay? That is what I'm going to do. That is what I plan on doing. Now, before we get into it, just want to let you guys know that today's sponsor is, of course, Prize Picks. You can get $50 instantly when you sign up for Prize Picks and play a $5 lineup. It doesn't matter if you win it or you lose it. You're going to get that $50 instantly. Also, just letting you know, one Caleb Williams passing yard is going to get you one win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, just 1 yard. That's all Caleb Williams has to do. And you pick higher, and there you go. More or less, you're going to pick more. That's the only thing that you can pick. It's a freebie. It lasts for 4 weeks. Once September's over, it's gone. It's very simple to play Prize Picks. If you've never given it a shot before, you just choose a player and you look at their projections, and do you think they go more or less than what essentially the projection is? If you think more, you put more. If you think less, you put less. And there you go. So you can download the app today. Use promo code JKBogan to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, so this is a full-on prediction. We're going to be talking about win-loss records. We're going to be talking about playoffs. We're going to be talking about, awards. And I'm going to roll the tape right now because I know people out there are going to say, well, Jake, you pick the Rams every year. Last year, you picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl. I did not. Here's the tape. Tape doesn't lie.
Advertised. Do not be surprised. I've been singing my praises about the 10-7 record, and I'm going to stick by it. The Rams go 10-7. Say playoffs, and I think they're getting to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. We'll see what happens, but I'm not going against a Sean McVay coached football team. I don't buy into the narrative that they're tanking. I don't care if Caleb Williams is a possibility or not. They're not tanking. And I think at the end of the day, it will make them better because of that. And when you see the same teams picking at the top of the order in the draft, that's why. Because that is the mentality they have, and that's the difference between an organization that has been in 2 Super Bowls since hiring their coach, their rookie coach, 7 years ago, and not seeing the playoffs, period.
See, I told you guys, I actually had them losing to the Lions. How about that? I'm not happy about that at all. But keep in mind, a prediction that you make when the season is already going, like right before the playoffs, is a lot different than basically taking a shot in the dark and picking a team to win the Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl before the season even starts. So let's start off. I'm not going game by game, but we're going to go division by division, playoffs, and I'll give you, of course, the other things that coincide with that, the awards, all of that. So let's start off with the AFC West. I think the Chiefs come out of the AFC West clear favorites there. They're clearly the best team. I think they're going to come out of the AFC West and they're going to win 12 games. So they'll go 12-5 with a 4-2 divisional record. I have the Chargers finishing 7-10, missing the playoffs. They finish second. I have the Broncos a 6-11 and the Raiders 6-11. Some people may disagree, but I don't think this division's that good. I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the main reasons why, if the Chargers do make the playoffs or if the Chargers win more than 7 games, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think the Raiders are a terrible team, but I don't think that they're going to be able to win a ton of games. I think they'll be in a lot of games. I don't really trust Bo Nix in year one, and I'm just not overly impressed with Sean Payton. I think a lot of what he did was a product of Drew Brees. So I have them at 6-11. Moving on to the next division there, you got the AFC South. And the AFC South, I have the Jaguars finishing last, 6-11, tied with the Indianapolis Colts. I have the 7-10 Titans, and I have the 11-6 Texans, which finish as the second seed in the AFC. Now, understanding this, I really like what the Titans did. I like some of the things about the Colts, and I understand the Jaguars. That's probably going to rile some people up. But I'm not a believer in Trevor Lawrence. I never have been. I think the Jaguars have a decent roster. I think they'll compete, but I'm not blown away by the Jacksonville Jaguars at all. And I do think, they've had decent losses. I mean, I do think losing Darius Williams will matter. He was one of the best cornerbacks in the league last year. And I think losing Calvin Ridley will matter. So I just feel like that has to be said. The Titans, to me, are an exciting team. They're going to go as far as Will Levis takes them. I think they have a lot of veterans on that defense. Definitely impressed with what they were able to do. First-year head coach Callahan. I like they went out and got, Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator. I really like what the Titans did. They went out and got Ernest Jones. I'm not counting the Titans out, but I think 7-10 they would take, especially being 4-2 in the divisional record there. So moving on, we have the AFC North, okay? This is the one division where I think every single team in the entire league, out of every single division, this is the one division where every single team finishes above 500. That's how I feel. And the third seed in the AFC, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 11-6, 3-3 in the division. I have the 5 seed, second place in this division, the Baltimore Ravens at 11-6, 2-4 in the division. And I have the Browns making the playoffs as well as the 6th seed, 10-7. If Deshaun Watson is average, the Browns have a really good roster. They somehow snuck into the playoffs last year, obviously because of Joe Flacco. I like this team. The defense is really good. They'll get Nick Chubb at some point, but I like Jerome Ford. I really think the Browns, they're a sleeper team in a sense because no one's going to pick them winning the division. No one will pick them winning the Super Bowl. But if Deshaun Watson were to magically go back to where he was at the Texans, this would be a Super Bowl team. And if Deshaun Watson is average, this is a playoff team. Now, unfortunately, not everybody can make it, but I have the Steelers finishing as the 8th seed right out of the playoffs, unfortunately for them, but I have them finishing 9-8. I think Russell Wilson / Justin Fields will give them more stability at quarterback and more dynamism, if you will. But at the same time, I'm not overly convinced the Steelers have enough firepower to take down a Bengals, a Ravens, a Browns team in this division. I actually think they do take them down in games. I think they do very well. They're going to probably go 4-2 and lead the division in record, but I think it's going to be the other games. And that's just the way I see it. But again, I think this team could win 10 games. I think they could sneak into the playoffs. I have them as the last team out. And last but not least in the AFC, we have the AFC East. Starting from the bottom, moving up, we have the number 1 pick in the draft projected by me. I think the Patriots are going to be picking number 1 overall next year. I don't think they'll have to take a quarterback because I am high on Drake May, but I do think they'll be picking number 1 overall. I don't think it's a great roster. I initially thought it would be competitive, and I like Jacoby Brissett, but I think that, unfortunately, every time I picked through every game, I just couldn't see myself picking the Patriots to win most of the games. I have them at 3-14 and picking first in the draft. The third team in the AFC East, missing the playoffs as the 9 seed, finishing 9-8 with a 4-2 division record, the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a good team, but I think losing Christian Wilkins, losing AVG, Andrew Van Ginkel, it is going to matter. I don't love this team. They also lost some other guys as well. I just feel like when you look at the Dolphins, obviously fireworks on the offensive side. Tua has never really proven anything in the playoffs, but getting to the playoffs would be the first step. And I think the AFC is just going to be too hard this year. So I have the Dolphins finishing 9-8, missing the playoffs. So a team I have finishing with a negative divisional record, but getting into the playoffs at 10-7 is actually the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, to me, are a team that I can never count out because I think Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in football. And there are times where if Josh Allen took better care of the football, I actually question if he's the best in the league. I know that sounds crazy, but truthfully. So I like Josh Allen. The defense lost some pieces. I didn't like, they lost Dodson. Did not like that. I don't really love their secondary. It's a lot of question marks. I look at the offense. Obviously, moving on from Stephon Diggs on paper hurts, but I think it helps them in a sense because I don't really think altogether that, that was a great fit. Clearly, I think it was actually, hurting the locker room. He wanted to leave, whatever. But I think there's going to be some good moments watching this team. Keon Coleman is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think Khalil Shakir takes another step. But the reality of it is this. The Bills are not going to win this division because I don't think the Bills are as good as they were last year, and they struggled down the stretch. So I think they finish 10-7. They limp into the playoffs. Josh Allen tries to carry him as far as he can, and that's that. And that means the divisional winner and the 4th seed in the playoffs will be the New York Jets. The Jets won 7 games last year. People forget, very quickly do they forget, when Aaron Rodgers went down with an injury. Okay, Zach Wilson was not a good fit. They were not a good fit for Zach Wilson. He started most of the season. I just feel like we forget how good this defense is because a lot of people think the Jets are overrated. The Jets won 7 games last year, and I think this year they're going to be much better. As long as Aaron Rodgers plays the majority of the season, 10 games shouldn't be an issue. Breece Hall is going to be a problem on the ground. Very excited to see Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers. But more importantly, the Jets went out and got guys like Fashanu. They went out and got guys like Tyron Smith. They have an actual offensive line now. They have pieces, Morgan Moses. So obviously, we knew what they had on the defense. Hassan Reddick is a question mark, but he's not necessarily a need right now for them to win games. I love their secondary. I think the Jets are going to win this division. They could be a problem in January and potentially February. Moving on to the NFC. Starting off with the number 1 seed, the LA Rams. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think they're the best team in the NFC. I think they have the best quarterback, the best head coach. I think their defense is going to be opportunistic, and I think they'll have the best offense in the league as long as everybody stays healthy. So the Rams, 13-4, 4-2 in the division. Number 2 in that division and the 5th overall seed, I have the 49ers finishing 12-5. I think when you look at the 49ers, there are definitely some concerns. I think people are starting to come around saying, look, I'm a little concerned that Trent Williams didn't have any sort of reps in training camp. I'm a little concerned about Brandon Ayuk and him holding out. I'm concerned that Purdy looked bad in preseason. There's a lot of ifs in the defense. There's guys that, newcomers, of course, but then also you have guys coming off injury and, you're not going to have Dre Greenlaw so I get that. Totally get that. But this is still a great football team. And I am very high on Brock Purdy. So I still think this team wins 12 games. I still think they're going to be a problem. But I think the Rams, they closed the gap considerably last year. I think they absolutely close it this year. They win week 3. They lose the later on game after the Bills game. So they lose back-to-back there. But I think the Rams are going to absolutely get the number 1 seed. I wouldn't go as far as Colin Cowherd said. They're going to comfortably win this division, but I do think they win this division and they get the number 1 seed in the NFC for the first time in Sean McVay's tenure. Moving on, we have number 3. This was hard for me to keep them out. I actually really like their roster. I think part of it is because the quarterback, it's the Seahawks. Geno Smith and company. They finished as the 8th seed, and they missed the playoffs. The last team out, 9-8, 3-3 in the division. I think they'll split one with the Rams. I think they'll sweep the Cardinals potentially. The reality is this. Seattle's got a great team on paper. Mike McDonald is a very fascinating head coach. The defense is going to give quarterbacks fits, and I like the defensive personnel. They don't have closers that I'd like if I'm, the Seahawks. The hope is for them that Byron Murphy ends up being that game-ending closer. But is he going to be? I don't know. They still have DK Metcalf. They still have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and, of course, Tyler Lockett. That'll be a really good receiver room. And then, of course, they brought back Noah Fant, who I think is going to be utilized way better in this offense with Ryan Grubb. They have an offensive, a run game that I really like. The offensive line is improved, but there's still some concerns and question marks. So I'm going to have Seattle finishing 3rd here in the division at 9-8 and just barely missing the playoffs. And number 4, last but not least, in the NFC West, I have the Arizona Cardinals finishing 7-10. I think Kyler Murray is going to keep them in every single game this year. I think this is going to be a tough out because I think the offense will be explosive, but I have way too many concerns about the defense. They don't have a closer at all. They have issues on the edge. They have issues at linebacker. The secondary is unproven for the most part, corners. So I'm going to err on the side of caution here. I think the Cardinals could absolutely move up to even the second seed, or not second seed, but second spot in the NFC West, in time. But I'm going to say this year, they take a big leap. This is a huge leap for them, getting to 7-10. They can build off this. This is where I have them. And then the next conference, or next division, we have the NFC North. Starting off at the bottom, I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a team that the defense carries them, but they still don't win many games. I don't trust in Sam Darnold. If you fast forward or you rewind back in the day, I was a big Sam Darnold fan coming out of USC. I like USC, and I was always a fan of his. I have just come to the realization I don't think Sam Darnold is that good. He's good in the sense he can play in the NFL, but I don't think he's that good. I think losing Kirk Cousins is going to be a problem. I think we're looking at it way too differently. I know Kevin O'Connell. I'm a big fan of Kevin O'Connell, what he did last year, even being able to win some of those games with Joshua Dobbs and so forth. But I don't think that should just be the assumption. Just because you're able to do that last year doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it again this year. And so I think the Vikings are going to end up going 4-13. I'm very low on them. And I think, some of these teams like, the Packers, Lions, Bears will pick on them not having a quarterback. You could have a great defense, but eventually even a great defense gets tired out when the offense isn't scoring and the offense isn't controlling the football and moving the football. So that's how I have it. The third team in the NFC North is the 7th seed Chicago Bears, finishing with 10 wins on the year. I have 10-7 for the Chicago Bears. The reality is this. I was not as high as everyone else on Caleb Williams. I was still very high on him. Okay. I don't think Caleb Williams is a can't miss generational talent. I don't think he's Andrew Luck, but I do think he's very good. And I think that despite the fact, I think the last 16 times it's like 15-1 are rookie quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken. I think Caleb Williams wins his first start. I think the Bears put way more around him than I've ever seen a rookie quarterback have. Talking about DeAndre Swift, and then, you go out and get Keenan Allen, you re-sign DJ Moore. I absolutely love what they did. They go out and get Rome Odunze. They have a tight end in Cole Kmet who's going to be a problem. The offensive line is much improved. The defense is fun. The coaching staff is not good, okay? So let me make that clear. I don't like the coaching staff. I'm not a fan of it, but I think that they have enough talent. They can sneak 10 games out of the schedule, and so I decided to go with the Bears as the 7th seed in the NFC North, followed by the Lions as the 6th seed in the NFC and the second team in the NFC North. I think the Lions are still a really, really talented team. I question how much better they are from last year, and I do have concerns about them now being the hunted instead of the hunter. I think that before, it's a lot easier when you don't have those expectations on you. It's a lot easier to play from behind. It's a lot easier to kind of hide and just pop out. It's way different, as we've learned, with teams winning the Super Bowl or getting there, getting the NFC title game or AFC title game. Once you start making a name for yourself, now you have a target on your back. So teams are going to be gunning for the Lions, who made the NFC title game last year. Teams are going to be gunning for them, and they have a much harder schedule. They now have a first-place schedule because they won the division last year. I think the Lions win 11 games still, though. I think they go 11-6, but I think they get that 6th seed because I am mega high on the Green Bay Packers. You want to talk about the Rams, the Chiefs, the Texans, I think the Packers are an elite football team right now. And the reason I think that is because I think the defense is well, put together. I really like, some of the moves that they made there. But I think the big thing for me when it comes to the Packers is that they went out, they got Josh Jacobs. They have a very talented young receiver room, has a lot of explosiveness. They have a lot of, talented players that can go up and high point the football. I think Dontavion Wicks, we saw last year what he can do. I think, Romeo Doubs, of course. Obviously the 2 tight ends, with Tucker Kraft and, the guy's name is totally escaping me. But what I want to say is this. Jordan Love is the game changer here. Jordan Love showed last year in the playoffs, this guy is one of the best quarterbacks in his conference already. So I think Jordan Love and the Packers are going to be a problem. I think Lambeau Field is going to be a problem. The majority of the season is cold anyway. So I think playing in the cold in Lambeau Field is going to give them an edge. I think having a quarterback like Jordan Love that has practically copied Aaron Rodgers' mannerisms is going to give them an edge. And ultimately, I think the Packers end up with the 2 seed in the NFC, and they go 12-5 and win this division. We move on to the NFC East. The Eagles finish first in the NFC East. This division does not repeat winners. So the Eagles did not win last year. It was the Cowboys that won the division. Now I have the Eagles winning the division. I think the Eagles are very good. I think that move that they made to get Jahan Dotson was super underrated, and I totally think it flew under the radar. I think a lot of people don't even realize it happened, but I got Jalen Hurts coming off a year that wasn't his best. I think he's going to be excited to bounce back. I got a good receiver room, a great receiver room, obviously. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, now you had Jahan Dotson. I got Dallas Goedert, one of the best tight ends in the league. Still one of the best offensive lines in football, despite Jason Kelce retiring. And then you have a defense that they go out and, they got some guys that I really, really liked. So I look at their secondary, which is much more improved, going out and getting, both of those defensive backs. I mean, the top defensive backs, Quinion Mitchell, and of course, DeJean. I just think that the Eagles have a lot going for them. They absolutely killed the draft. They normally do. And I love that they just did some of the things that they did this offseason. Overall, I think it's a really good roster. And so I think the Eagles win this division. I think in second place, it's going to surprise people. But the 9-8 Washington Commanders, I have them missing the playoffs, but I think any Washington Commanders fan would take that. There's always some surprise teams every year. And just because they don't make the playoffs doesn't mean they're not a surprise. Washington would take a huge leap forward if they could go 9-8 this year. I think they're going to do it. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, I think, offers a spark that they've been lacking. I think when you look at just overall the defense and Dan Quinn, he was able to bring over guys like Dorrance Armstrong Jr. and Dante Fowler Jr. and Bobby Wagner's willing to sign with them, and Jeremy Chin and Frankie Louvu. And I really like what they did. So will the Commanders win the Super Bowl or anything like that? Probably not. Will they even make the playoffs? Maybe not. But I like them at 9-8. I like them as a surprise team. And I think at the end of the year, we'll be watching some exciting Commanders football. And they're going to give Commanders fans hope. And that's all that you can ask for going into a season with a rookie quarterback. So number 3 is the Dallas Cowboys. I have them as the 10th team in the NFC, 8-9. Look, I think losing Dan Quinn means more than people think. I think it's so quick to just brush it under the rug. They have a great offense, and that's true. They also lost Tyron Smith, to be fair. Now, I'm also a big fan of Tyler Guyton, also to be fair. But I look at this team and I think, okay, the offensive part of it is great. The passing game is going to be great. Dak Prescott's going to throw all over the yard. He does it all the time, right? You like just everything about the passing game. What I don't like is the run game. Are you kidding me? Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook in 2024? Are we really serious? Rico Dowdle is the best running back on that team right now. He's probably not going to start. So I do not like the run game at all. I think this is a game that we're starting to see, since 2021, there has not been a team that has gone over 30 points. And I think the points per game, I think the reason for that is because we're starting to see a more balanced attack. More of the top offenses are looking to be more balanced. We see the Lions, we see the Rams, the 49ers. The Cowboys, you can't be balanced when Ezekiel Elliott is your running back. Okay, this isn't, 2015. So or 2016. So, I mean, that's just how I look at it. Maybe I see it differently. Actually, I think it was 2017, if I'm not mistaken. But I just see it differently. I think that they really lack at running back. And I think that they hired a defensive coordinator who has completely lost touch of the game in Mike Zimmer. He's been out of the league for 2 years. I think he's more old school. I don't think he's anywhere near the level of Dan Quinn. They lost players as well. They lost guys like Fowler Jr. and Armstrong Jr. And I think it's going to matter. I do, truthfully. I'm not overly high on the Cowboys. If they go 9-8, I won't be shocked. If they win 13 games, I absolutely will. I don't get the hype. Madden seems to think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not high on them at all. So there's that. And then number 4 here is the New York Giants. I think this is a 5-12 team this year that is going to be in every game. The defense has closers. I love that they went out and got Brian Burns. I already was a big fan of Kayvon Thibodeau. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence is an absolute beast up front. But my concern with the Giants is Daniel Jones. Okay, you go out and you get Malik Neighbors, and that's great, right? You lose Saquon Barkley. So if you lose Saquon Barkley, and they did get Devin Singletary, who I think is underrated, but you lose Saquon Barkley, now your offense needs to step up in other areas. And I understand they got Neighbors, but I haven't been overly impressed with Daniel Jones. I've defended him because I don't think he's as bad as people say, but I don't think he's as good as some Giants fans hoped he would be. So I do think this is kind of put up or shut up time. I do think Daniel Jones is gone after this year anyway, and I have him going 5-12. Again, competitive team, but you have to finish games. And you only get 17. So unfortunately, I think they win 5 of their 17 games this year. Last but not least here, we have the NFC South. I have the Panthers coming in last place here at 5-12. I actually am really fascinated by what they did. Ejiro Evero, I think, is going to be just perfect for them defensive coordinator wise. Just, I think over time, they're going to get the right guys in there and he's going to make the most of it. And I like that they went out and they got Jordan Fuller and they spent quite a bit of money on their defense, on their offense. I don't think the Panthers are as bad as people think. This is all Bryce Young. If Canales can get the most out of Bryce Young, we'll see what ends up happening. I initially was going to give him 7 wins. I'm higher on the Panthers than most people, but I had to be honest with myself. It's probably going to be more like 5 wins. So I went 5-12, and that's the same with the New Orleans Saints. The Saints may have a big name. Teams look at that organization and think they've won tons of games the last 7 years or whatever. I already know the fans are tired of Derek Carr. They're going to be obviously pushing for a guy like Spencer Rattler to come in when he throws a pick. But I think the Saints have talent. I just don't think that they're as talented as years past. I think that the NFC will eat you alive, because of that, because you have juggernauts, in my opinion, like the Packers, the Rams, the Eagles, the 49ers. So unfortunately for the Saints, they also have to play the new look Falcons twice this year. I don't like the Saints this year. I think they go 5-12. I think they have the tiebreaker over the Panthers to steal third place. Buccaneers, they come in second here, 7-10. They barely made the playoffs last year. I like Baker Mayfield. That offensive line scares the hell out of me. I'm not a fan of their offensive line at all. I know they brought back Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin. I'm well aware of that. And there's some things I do like, but I just don't feel, and this is what happens, since Tom Brady retired, this defense and just everything is going downhill. And Baker did his damnedest to try to bring him as far as he could, but I just don't think this is that talented of a roster. So I have them at 7-10 and missing the playoffs, and that means the number 4 seed, the automatic bid, the home game and everything. The Atlanta Falcons at 10-7, 4-2 record in the division. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the game changer here. But the thing that gives me excitement about the Falcons is their defense. I think when you look at what they did going out, adding guys like Justin Simmons, you already have Jesse Bates. I'm just really excited to see this team, and I like the trade that they made for Judon. I just think that this Falcons team, obviously, you know, we're going to have to see some things. And Raheem Morris, who's had success in the past, has also had failure in the past. He's going to have to prove a lot, but I trust Raheem Morris. I think he's a very good coach, and I think that defense is going to be rocking. And I think the offense with guys like Matt Ryan, and, you know, you have Bijan Robinson, you have Algier, you have an offensive line that's going to be a wall. You have Kyle Pitts. I like what I see in Atlanta. So I'm going to say they win 10 games and they take the 4th seed in the NFC playoffs. So now we move on to the playoffs. What's going to happen here? Well, in the wild card round, I have the Jets taking down the Baltimore Ravens in New York. JetLife Stadium is going to be absolutely packed. I think Aaron Rodgers gets it done. I don't really trust Lamar Jackson on the road. And as much as I love Lamar and I've advocated for him, he has not been good in the playoffs. Give me the Jets. After that, I have the 3 seed Bengals taking down their rival Browns, the 6 seed. I just think, you know, when these two teams match up, I think anything can happen, but I do trust Joe Burrow. He's been here before. Deshaun Watson, again, if he ends up going back and reverting to his Texans days, the Browns can win the damn Super Bowl, but I just think that the Bengals are the better team, so I'll go with the Bengals there. And I'm going to take the Texans at home, so all 3 home teams in the AFC wildcard round. I'm going to take the Texans, the 2-seed Texans at home, over Josh Allen and the Bills. I think the Texans, you know, playing in Houston, home playoff game and everything, I'm really impressed with CJ Stroud. I'll get to how impressed I am with him, but I think this Texans team, what they did going out, I mean, I know they lost Jonathan Grenard. They replaced him with Danielle Hunter. Okay, this is kind of just, in a nutshell, what the Texans are. They have a great coach in D'Amico Ryans. I just think when I look at this team, they did a lot, and they were already really good. And I think that they're quite a few years ahead of maybe where people thought they'd be. Going out and getting Joe Mixon was huge. I just think, you know, Stephon Diggs, that's going to be fun for Diggs. A rematch against, or you know, a revenge game, I guess, against the Bills. But I think that the Texans win this game. I'm not betting against the Texans in that one. So we move on to the NFC side of the wildcard round, and I have the 49ers taking down the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Shanahan gets his little revenge over the Falcons in the playoffs, knocking them out. Kyle Shanahan gets revenge on Raheem Morris for knocking him out of the NFC title game back in 2021 to 2022 season. So the 49ers, the 5 seed, they beat the Falcons. I think they're just the better team. Obviously, I have them winning 12 games. The Falcons make the playoffs with 10 wins, so 2 fewer wins. I have the Eagles beating the Lions. I think the Lions, my concern about Jared Goff here for the Lions is that you're going into hostile Philadelphia in January weather, okay? I'll take the Eagles in that one. I trust them at home more. If this was in a dome, give me the Lions, but I do think the elements in January, could bother Jared Goff. It has bothered Jared Goff in the past, so I'm going to take the Eagles. And then I think this will be kind of a fun matchup. The Packers and Bears being the 7 seed, the Packers being the 2. I think the Packers win it, but I think it'll be fun. Caleb Williams gets his first crack at the playoffs in his first season, and I think they have weapons to make it interesting, but I think the Packers ultimately prevail. And then moving on to the divisional round, I have the Houston Texans beating the Bengals, the 2-seeded Texans beating the 3rd-seed Bengals. I understand, people are going to look at, well, Joe Burrow, he's great in the postseason. The Bengals, when they get to the postseason, they, pretty much get to the AFC title game. But the reality is this. When I look at this game, I see the Bengals, who didn't make the playoffs last year, as a team that, yes, they have to take a little bit of a leap forward. I don't know what's going on with the Jamar Chase situation either. Obviously, that'll probably be cleared out before this point. But I think the Texans are just the better team. And so I think it'll be a fun game, but I'll take the Texans. And then I'll take the Chiefs at Arrowhead against the Jets. I think it'll be a really fun game. Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. I think the Jets will be able to run the football, but I think ultimately Patrick Mahomes and his youth, compared to Aaron Rodgers getting up there in age, I think he'll be able to eke this one out and send the Texans to the AFC title game. With that said, we're sticking with all the favorites here. We're sticking with the highest seeds. I have the Packers taking down the Philadelphia Eagles in that round. I have the Rams taking down the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round. I think the Rams have become the better team. I think we're going to see that. I think the Packers are better than the Eagles. And then we move on to the conference championship round. The AFC and the NFC. So the AFC championship game, I have CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans and this young Texans team, very reminiscent to the 2018 LA Rams. I have them taking down the Kansas City Chiefs and going to the Super Bowl in DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud's second year in the league. With that said, I have the Rams knocking off the Green Bay Packers, getting over the hump in style. The Rams, I have them losing in the regular season to the Packers. I have pretty much feels like they're always losing the Packers. So what better way to get over the hump than to beat the 49ers, and once you beat them a second time in the postseason, it's been put to bed. The 49ers do not own the Rams. But then the Rams beat the Packers in the playoffs, get over that hump, and we do have an exciting Super Bowl between CJ Stroud and CJ Stroud, one of his idols growing up, Matthew Stafford. And I will take the experience. I will take the guy who's already done it. I think the CJ Stroud and company, I think DeMeco Ryans could be in plenty of Super Bowls down the road. This is a very good-looking team, and they're going to be around for a long time. But I'm going to take the Rams in this one, and I think that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I think ultimately what it comes down to is last year they could have absolutely done it. You could talk about calls all you will in the Lions game, but the reality is they fell short. I think that they were the hottest team last year, and some teams got lucky. They got knocked out early on. But when you look at the Rams, you have the championship pedigree, right? You got the coaching staff. You got the best quarterback in the NFC. I think the Rams are in a really good position here. Cooper Kupp, if he stays healthy, is going to bring this offense to new heights. Because him, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, the Rams have learned. This has been a growing process, a learning process. Sean McVay has worked with things, and if it hasn't worked, he's gone and changed it up. And we've seen this offense evolve into what it's become. They're using more gap scheme in the run game instead of a more wide zone run scheme that they did with Todd Gurley. They don't use as much play action. Hopefully they do get back to that. But I think the big deciding factor in this one is going to be the fact that Chris Shula's defense will not be a lockdown defense, will not be shut down. Chris Shula's defense will be a combination of Wade Phillips, who's one of the greatest ever, Brandon Staley, who coached one of the greatest Rams defenses ever, and Raheem Morris, who literally coached the Super Bowl winning defense for the Rams in Sean McVay's tenure. It's going to be a combination of that, and I think that's going to lead to an opportunistic defense that ends up with the most takeaways a Rams defense has had in the Sean McVay era. So I think a combination of a young, youthful, exuberant defense that can force turnovers and can create essentially more offensive possessions for what I believe is going to be, if not the best offense in the league, a top 3 at worst. I think when it's all said and done, you put those things together. I understand Aaron Donald retired. Hell, he might even be on this roster when this game ends. No matter what he says, it's going to be hard to turn that down. But I do ultimately believe that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. Last year, I felt like, coming back from a 5-12 season, a lot of turnover. I liked what they did. I felt like they could get hot, and obviously the championship pedigree and everything comes into play. Experience matters, and they're more experienced than most of those teams, and they could absolutely run a table if they got into the dance. But my prediction last year was that the Lions, who I was very high on, and I believe they would take the next step, would. And sure enough, they did. They actually ended up beating the Rams. I had them both in the divisional round. The Lions beating the Rams in the divisional. But either way, point still stands. What it comes down to is this. The Rams are going to win this Super Bowl this year if they stay healthy. But we don't do predictions based on injuries. We do predictions based on predictions. We just call it like it is. Injuries happen. I'm not going to predict injuries. There's no way for me to know. With that said, I think Super Bowl MVP will be Matthew Stafford. I think the MVP of the regular season is going to be CJ Stroud. I think he's going to be fantastic this year for the Texans. He's throwing to all sorts of guys. I mean, Nico Collins coming off a huge year. Everyone already forgot about Tank Dell, the most explosive weapon there. And then Stephon Diggs, and then Dalton Schultz, and then Joe Mixon in the passing game. It's going to be fun. So very, very fun team to watch. CJ Stroud wins MVP. Stafford wins Super Bowl MVP, rightfully so. Offensive Player of the Year will be Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. I think this is just going to be an absolute monster season for CeeDee Lamb. They have no run game to speak of. Lamb can work against double teams, whatever you put on him. He is an incredible receiver. It's going to be a pass-happy season for Dallas, and I think CeeDee Lamb gets Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, the Texans, they get edge defender Danielle Hunter as Defensive Player of the Year. I think him going to the Texans was really a game changer for that defense. It was already really good. Losing Jonathan Grenard hurt. Going out and replacing him with Danielle Hunter was an upgrade, and that's huge. Obviously, Offensive Rookie of the Year, if he made it that far, you got to give it to him. It's going to be Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams with the Bears, he's got too much around him to really fail. So I think Caleb Williams, also, he's a good player. So I'm not going to say he's only doing it because of what's around him. And I'll also say Defensive Rookie of the Year, the Rams get in here with Braden Fisk. I think Fisk is going to edge out Jared Verse. I think some other guys will be in the mix for sure, but I think Braden Fisk is going to be an absolute game changer for the Rams, because if you lose Aaron Donald and you don't replace him, that could be a problem. You'll never say they replaced Aaron Donald because you can't replace that level of player. That's why they drafted 2 guys to try to replace him with Fisk and Verse. And I think Fisk is going to edge out Verse. I think he is going to break Kobe Turner's interior defensive line rookie sack record this year. I think he gets into the 12 range, maybe more than that. And I think Jared Verse is going to be maybe 15 sacks. So I'm very high on both of them. I think they're both going to be a big reason why the Rams ultimately win the Super Bowl. I think DeMeco Ryans is by far your coach of the year. Probably should have won it last year. And I know the job, trust me, totally understand the job Stefanski did. I don't even hate that, because the fact the Browns made it with what they were dealing with and just taking Joe Flacco off the couch. I mean, incredible coaching last year by Stefanski, but DeMeco Ryans probably should have won it last year based on the fact he was a rookie. They were drafting 2nd overall, and he took that team and turned it into one of the best teams in the AFC seemingly overnight. So DeMeco Ryans gets Coach of the Year, and of course the comeback player of the year has to go to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers in this scenario, and my prediction is that he is going to go to the AFC title game. Okay, or not the AFC title, the AFC divisional round. And if he takes the Jets, who have been abysmal over the years, if he takes the Jets after going 7-10 last year, and he takes them to the playoffs, coming off a major injury, torn Achilles, you got to give him all the props in the world. He wins comeback player of the year. So that's what I have. let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Really curious, where you guys are on this. Obviously, I know I'm going to get a lot of blowback. I got Rams stuff in the background. I said the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I know that comes with the territory, so you're not telling me something I don't already know. But I don't look at myself as a homer, because a homer would mean that I just think the Rams are going to win every year and they're not a good football team. The Rams are one of the best teams in football. They've been one of the best teams in football since McVay took over in 2017. It's not a homer take. It's not a bad thing to basically believe in a team that has shown that you can believe in them. They have championship pedigree. They have one of the best quarterbacks in football and the best in their conference. They have a great running game. They have a guy that misses 6 games last year in the regular season, and he finished his 3rd in rushing in his first year as a starting running back. They have a guy that won the Triple Crown who's now fully healthy in Cooper Kupp. There's so many things to like about the Rams that I'm not going to get too much into it, but really do appreciate you guys. If you stuck around for watching this, this is a longer video. Wasn't really meant to be, but it ended up being that way. So you guys enjoyed tonight. If you watch this after the fact of the Chiefs and Ravens game, by all means, appreciate it. And yeah, so be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow me on all social media at JKBogen, including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Special thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Take care, folks. Later. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.